بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. When reciting this verse, the letter za must be pronounced with emphasis and clarity. Quite often, the letter za here is pronounced like dhal. This is incorrect. When reciting the word al-ardu, care should be taken to ensure that incorrect qalqalah is not carried out on lam sakina. Hence, to recite zulzilatil ardu, this will be incorrect. When reciting the word zilzalaha, care must be taken to ensure that pupils do not recite laha. Quite often some pupils here recite zilzalaha. This is incorrect. وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. There must be sufficient emphasis on and clarity of the letter kha. Quite often this is pronounced in a subdued manner where the letter kha is not heard. وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. Qaf must be pronounced with sufficient clarity and emphasis. Also, the ikhfa of nun sakina must be done as per the guidance mentioned previously. Notably, that the sound made will be a light nasal sound. The lips must not touch when making ikhfa here, as that would create the sound of meme. Also, the mouth should not remain too open, as this creates an incorrect sound. The lips must also not be circled. And finally, the ikhfa must be pronounced and done in the normal mouth or fathah position. يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا. The ikhfa on the word يَوْمَئِذٍ must be done as per the guidance mentioned under verse number 3. The ikhfa must also be lengthened sufficiently, and the letter kha in akhbaraha must be pronounced with clarity and emphasis. Finally, when reciting akhbaraha, the ha must be emphasized when making waqf. This will be applicable to all the verses from verse number 1 to verse number 5. بِأَنَّ رَبَّكَ أَوْحَى لَهَا. The letter ha in the word أوحى must be pronounced with sufficient emphasis and clarity. Quite often pupils change the ha into the letter ha and recite أَوْحَى لَهَا. This is incorrect. يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصْدُرُ النَّاسُ أَشْتَاتًا لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُمْ. Firstly, yumin ghunnah or idgham with ghunnah must be sufficiently lengthened. Secondly, on the word yasduru, the Sad must be pronounced full mouth. Quite often, some pupils change the letter Sad into Sin and recite Yasdurun, which is incorrect. The Sad is a full mouth letter and must not be changed into a letter Sin. Also on the same word, the Ra contains a Dhamma, hence the Ra will be pronounced full mouth. يصدغ الناس أشتاتا. The letter Sheen must also be pronounced with sufficient clarity. Quite often, it is not emphasized sufficiently, and so the clarity of the letter Sheen is subdued. لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُمْ. The Ra contains Fathah, so the Ra will be pronounced full mouth. This requires mashq. And finally, in this verse, when reciting the word أَعْمَالَهُمْ, there will be sufficient emphasis to ensure that the letter Ain is pronounced clearly. However, qalqalah must not occur on the letter Ain. Hence, to recite أَعْمَالَهُمْ, this will be incorrect. Quite often, pupils mix up verse number 4 and verse number 6. So in place of reciting verse number 4, pupils recite verse number 6. This is due to the similar beginning of both the verses. When memorizing and revising, pupils must bear this in mind, and teachers must also emphasize this to pupils and remind them so that pupils do not make this error. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. Yumin Ghunnah or Idgham with Ghunnah occurs twice in verse number 7. First on فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ and secondly on خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. Ghunnah is a heavy nasal sound. Care must also be taken to ensure that the Ghunnah is lengthened sufficiently. On the word يَعْمَلْ, qalqalah should not be carried out on the Ain Sakinah, nor should there be qalqalah on Lam Sakinah. When reciting the word ذَرَّةٍ, the Ra mushaddada will be pronounced full mouth, or in other words, both Ra in the Ra mushaddada will be pronounced full mouth. However, care should be taken to ensure that the Dal before the Ra mushaddada is not pronounced full mouth and changed into Va. Hence, to pronounce Dharratin will be incorrect. The correct pronunciation will be Dharratin, where Dal is pronounced empty mouth. Then the Ra mushaddada, both Ra are pronounced full mouth. ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. When reciting the words ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا, quite often some pupils carry out incorrect qalqalah on ذَرَّةٍ and recite ذَرَّةٍ. This is incorrect. Pupils must bear this in mind when learning and revising, and teachers must also be wary of this error that is quite often made. Finally, yara. The ra contains fatha, hence it must be pronounced sufficiently full mouth. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Guidance mentioned under verse number 7 is largely applicable also to verse number 8 with a few differences. Firstly, verse number 7 starts with thamay, whereas verse number 8 starts with wamay. That's the first difference. Secondly, on verse number 7, there is no ikhfa of noon sakina between dharratin khayra, whereas in verse number 8 there will be ikhfa of noon sakina between the words dharratin sharran yara. Quite often pupils mix up and confuse verses 7 and 8 in terms of the differences that have been highlighted. Pupils must ensure that they remember the difference between the two. Teachers must also emphasize this difference so that pupils learn and remember both verses in the correct manner.